Troika is a science fantasy RPG in which players travel by eldritch portal and non-Euclidean labyrinth and golden-sailed barge between the uncountable crystal spheres strung delicately across the humpbacked sky. What you encounter on those spheres and in those liminal places is anybody's guess. Although inside this book you will find people and artifacts from those worlds which will suggest the shape of things. The adventure and wonder are in the gaps. The game is defined by the ways in which you fill them. Hello, and welcome to Gone Solo. I am Royce Rosewood, your host and storyteller. We are going to be playing Troika, which is a wacky, oddball science fantasy RPG. So, here's what we're doing. I really wanted to lean in to the DIY aesthetic of Troika for this solo campaign. So to that end, I've made dice. So we have our yes, no, and but oracle here on a very large D6. I've got some custom D6, so this is just a regular one. Here's a tens place for when we need to roll on a D66 table. I have a D3, which is just 1, 2s, and 3s repeated. And I have a D2, which is just 1s and 2s repeated. So between these dice, that should cover all of the tables that we need. Everything on Troika runs on D6s. And so for my custom content, I made sure that everything also runs on D6s. So what do we have? Well, I've got some tables that I rolled up to be able to generate random weapons and random monsters should we need them. I've got my own random spell table as the one provided in the book. It does not actually use all the spells, and I thought, why not have access to all the spells? I came up with some tables to generate mean, which in this game is the personality or the flavor of the NPCs. And then I have some character lists. There's some blank areas here for us to be able to create up even wackier stuff. I have ways to generate environments and points of interest and distances and landing places, and then events and other means by which to travel. And then I've got these blank D66 tables. I was inspired by Mythic. We're not actually going to be using the full Mythic system. I just wanted to keep it really simple and focused and a little bit wacky and rough around the edges. So I came up with these tables that we can keep track of locations and threads and NPCs like in Mythic. But as they fill up, so we're just going to use the first 6, if we need a random one, and then as they fill up, we can use the additional tens place digits depending on how many we have. And if we roll a blank, we can either choose something that's already on the list, or we can use that opportunity to create something new. So then we also have these, a bunch of D6s for combat. These are what we're going to use for the stack, which is how combat works. And then for our oracle, we are using our trusty bag of story cubes, which are all 6-sided, fortunately. So these just have pictures, so anytime we need an idea or a name or an interpretation as to the nature of things, we're going to roll 1 or 2 of these, and I'm going to interpret what those little symbols mean to give flavor and detail to the world. Oh, we also have our cheat sheet. This is all the rules, all here on one sheet, or at least a summary of them. So here's the situation. Here's where we're going to start. I've been reading a lot of Jack Vance, which is an inspiration for not only Troika, but also like original D&D and a lot of the early role-playing games. It's a science fantasy. It's great. Read The Dying Earth by Jack Vance. It's totally nutty, and I can't wait to get through all of it and finish it. But because my understanding is that Troika is a very lethal system, that means the characters may die very frequently. I wanted to set up a structure where we could keep sort of the threads and everything going without the characters needing to survive. So in Jack Vance and in The Dying Earth, there are a number of wizards, and they are capricious and miserly, and they have palaces full of magical objects and gewgaws and etc. So I wanted to create a situation where we had a wizard quest giver who needed to expand their collection of magical trinkets and would hire adventurers to do so. So we'll have our wizard, and then as our characters come in, they will go on the quests that the wizard gets them to retrieve these magical artifacts, and we'll start there. So as characters die, the wizard simply replaces them on the team, and we move forward. That's at least the starting point. Where we end up is anybody's guess. So to start, we need a name for this wizard. All right, I've rolled a mushroom and a butterfly net. So mushrooms are called, like the study of mushrooms is called mycology, right? So maybe myconet. Let's get a mean here. So that's a D366. 115. Myconet the Angry. And then we'll change that to Myconet the Mad. Just so there's alliteration. Okay, so we have Myconet the Mad. I will add him to our NPC list. So, who is our first character? Troika runs on a series of backgrounds, which are basically just descriptions and lists of starting equipment. And then from there, we flesh out. So let's see which background we're getting for our first character. 22. 22 is the dwarf. You are a short, hairy, belligerent creature. Dwarfs are fabricated people, each made in turn by another, and as such there are no dwarf children or dwarf parents to prevent you from fully committing to the important dwarfy endeavors of creating fine art in unusual places. You intend to find the most unusual places in all the million spheres. It starts with a masonry hammer and a roll of artist's supplies. All right, let's write this up. Okay, I've rolled up the random stats for this dwarf, and now all we need is a name. All right, so I've got somebody pointing, and I've got somebody with a package. So we'll call him Pointage. Pointage the dwarf. All right, so that is the first character, and now we're going to roll up our second character. 64. A wizard hunter. Some people say that man is the most dangerous prey. They are wrong. Can men ignite the air and freeze your blood? Can men turn into flocks of seagulls when cornered in an alley? No, they can't. Wizards are the most dangerous prey. Starts with a large sack, witch hair rope, crossbow and bolts, sword, pocket gods, and a ruby lorgnette. Okay, let's write it up. All right, now all we need is a name for this wizard hunter. I roll the magnet and a maze. So we will call her, let's say, Magneza. Magneza, the wizard hunter, and Pointage, the dwarf. So the other thing I've done is just sort of put in some placeholders on our threads. Each of our characters has NPC ties and location ties, and they have their own personal goals. We don't know what those are yet, and they will be discovered during play. But we're just sort of holding those places to have some threads to hold on to in the future. So. We're in a large palace on the outskirts of Troika. There are large verandas carved into the side of a mountain, and balconies and doorways and arches. And they're in a large central display room, greeting room, announcement room. There's a large chair and there are curtains. And in the chair is a shriveled, wizened, bearded, with long eyebrows wizard named Myconet the Mad. And in front of him are a little sort of grubby dwarf creature, very small and a little bit dirty, and with sort of a twinkling glimmer in the eye, and a wizard hunter, a woman with practical traveling cloaks and a large hat, and very tough appearance about her. And Myconet speaks and says, "You may be wondering why I've asked you here to my grand palace here today." And Magneza sort of nods, confused. She doesn't trust or like wizards, but there's coin involved, and so she's hearing him out. "There is something that I need for my collection, and I would like you to obtain it." So, what is it? Let's roll on our story cubes. So I wrote a spacesuit and a mushroom cloud. "It is an explosive suit of great power. In old days, it was most revered as a warrior's suit. Could not only create large explosions, but could also survive them. And I need it to add to my vast collection." The dwarf and the wizard hunter look around. They see that this place is already filled with all sorts of magical objects. What on earth could this wizard possibly need with more? But it seems like the price is right. "So, this is what I want you to do. I know where you might find it, but it's not going to be easy. And I have hired you to specifically for this task." So, knowing what we know just about the very basics of these two characters, the plot is going to need their specific skills. So, Myconet has hired these two very specifically. So there's someone who is an artist who can make things, and there's someone who can track down and hunt wizards. So what I think this means is that the explosive suit is already in the possession of a different wizard, maybe somebody who Myconet has had a rivalry with in the past. And so he wants Magneza to hunt down this other wizard, and then he wants the dwarf, Pointage, to create a similar suit, like a facsimile, a fake suit, and they're going to swap them out. That way the other wizard won't know that the suit is missing, at least for a long enough time for them to get away. Okay? So Myconet explains this plan. You're going to hunt down the wizard who's currently in ownership of this suit, and you, dwarf, you're going to create a suit replacement, and we're going to switch them out. So Pointage and Magneza kind of look at each other and say, "Oh, okay, well, I guess that's what we're doing." So here's what you need to know. How far away is this place? 2. Okay, it's in the same sphere, but close. Okay, so they won't have very far to go. What else do we know about this place? I'm going to roll on our point of interest chart. 21. It's in a factory. And what sort of a factory? Okay. It's in a factory that creates listening dishes, as they're called here, I guess, for communication. So whoever this other wizard is, they've got this listening communication disc factory. So we've got our first thread. Retrieve the explosive suit. Pointage and Magneza leave the palace, and they look at each other and they introduce each other. So first thing, they're going to need to get to this place. It's not within walking distance. It's close by, but it's still going to take some time to journey. So they need to find some means of travel, and the way they're going to travel is that looks like coughing or shouting. So maybe there's some method by which magic people who can shout and push a transport sort of down a chute, and it flies off into the distance. So Magneza and Pointage find such a place, and they strap themselves in, and they say where they want to go. And there's this big gust of wind and shouting, and they go off on their little pod and get to this place that is what? We know that there is a factory there, but other than that, let's see. Okay, it's like a smaller town outside of Troika, which I assume is some kind of big metropolis. We'll say that. So there's a smaller town. They arrive, and after they arrive, Magneza suggests, I'm going to go scout the area, and you can go gather your supplies, and we can meet back here at the local inn, and then develop a plan for how best to get this explosive suit. So who are we going to follow first? One or two? One. Okay, we're going to follow Pointage. So Pointage needs to gather supplies. Oh, but he doesn't know what the suit is made out of yet. So it might be better actually to have Magneza kind of do some scouting and see if she can figure out some information. So she goes, she asks around for the factory, which, being a point of interest, locals would know where it is. And I assume there'd be some sort of security or defenses, but let's find out. I don't know for sure. Let's ask our Oracle die. No, absolutely not. It is totally undefended, which is strange. So everybody knows where the factory is, but not only is it not defended, people come in and out all the time. A lot of the people and creatures here work or involved in this factory that makes the communication dishes, the listening dishes. So she can just kind of wander right in. And she does so. So she kind of goes in with a flow of workers. Does she find any evidence of this wizard who might own the explosive suit? Yes, but okay. She finds evidence, but they're not actually there. There's all sorts of speakers, or maybe little ones of these communication dishes that magically teleport the sound, and so she hears the speaking and sort of encouraging or the workers. Okay, does this seem like a nice boss or a mean boss? Is the boss nice? Yes. Okay. So saying, Keep up your great work, workers. You're doing an excellent job. You're fine workers and your craftsmanship is impeccable. Keep working. Keep it up. Is anybody able to tell her about? It seems like they would be talking, and it seems like the environment is pretty open, pretty free, pretty happy. So what do they say? What do the workers say about... So we've got the dramatic masks. They say, well, the master is in a good mood today, but that's not always the case. So I'm glad you caught him on a good day and not on a bad day, because when it's a bad day, it's real bad. But today's good. It's all good today. No problems today. Magneta asks around, like, what's this wizard's name? We've got a cage and we've got Olympus. We'll call it Keg Olympus the Mercurial. As it seems like the moods change very frequently. So I think it's about time to roll. I was going to do that earlier, but we just kind of got into the flow of things. So we're going to roll an event for this sort of next section to see what happens. We're going to roll on our NPC table. All right. What's coming up? 6. Okay, so we can either choose or we can add somebody new. Let's come up with somebody new. That's going to play a part in this next section. 161. An enthusiastic burglar. So they are spending some time sort of out on the plazas of this town, and there's workers streaming in and out, and and people going on with their daily lives. Maybe they're sitting at a cafe, and this from the alley comes this darkly dressed person who kind of slinks over to their table and says, I recognize your type. We don't get outsiders here very often. You might be here to, procure certain items. And Magneza says, well, what's it to you? And Pointage is just sipping on his drink. Well, I could maybe help you. Does this burglar also want to steal the explosive suit? Yes, but of course for themselves. Listen, you may have come across or heard about Keg Olympus, the Mercurial, who, among other things, runs the factory in this town. He has certain powerful artifacts, including, I am told, an explosive suit. If you would be willing to help me procure it, you would get a vast share of the eventual selling price. Well, now Magneza and Pointage have an interesting choice. They are already off to steal this explosive suit. And then there's someone else who also wants to steal it, but is going to cut them in, and presumably is what this burglar is offering more than what Myconet is offering. No, but there's something about working with Myconet that is some sort of disadvantage. Magneza doesn't like wizards. So that's the choice. They can work with this burglar and they wouldn't get as much money, but they would not be working for the wizard. Magneza says, well, I've brought you along. We've been hired together, Pointage, so it should be a unanimous decision whether we should break this contract with Myconet. Pointage raises the fact and says, well, it's not wise to cross a wizard, especially one as powerful as Myconet. I don't know if breaking our contract with him would be such a good idea. But on the other hand, and they're talking in private, the burglar's gone off, they're probably listening in, but on the other hand, Pointage, says Magnaza, we know that this burglar is going to be going after the same quarry. If we don't work with him, we'll be working against him. Oh, well, this is an interesting dilemma. What are they going to do? They could maybe use the burglar's help to get in, and then betray the burglar, and then take the suit. So using whatever the burglar already knows, and then cutting out the burglar when they get the opportunity. So anyway, yeah, I think that's going to be their plan, because they don't want to be working against this burglar. They're going to pretend to work with this burglar for as long as it's helpful, and then we'll cut them out and take the suit back to Myconet, if only because they don't want to anger a wizard who has hired them. So, what is this burglar's name? Vileglue. Vileglue, the enthusiastic burglar. What can Vileglue tell them about this explosive suit? Does he know anything about it? No, he doesn't know anything about the suit, but he has already scouted a way to get into the place where the suit is stored. So he already knows where it is, but he doesn't know anything about it. Tell us about this place. I've got a wizard. So maybe it's a wizard's tower. So there's a tower out on the outskirts of this town, and Vileglue knows where it is and knows how to get there and knows how to break in. They're going to go do that. We'll call that a scene. Not that we keep track of scenes in this system, but we'll mark that and then roll for our next event. What's going to happen? Basically how this works is I just really like the random events from Mythic, and so I just make it so that there's some, we come up with the plan for the scene, and then we roll on the event, and then that is going to change our expectations and surprise us from the scene. So there's just always like extra stuff going on. Okay, so what happens? Okay, there's a local event, so there's something already going on here, or something going on in the area that's going to change or impact. Okay, so there's fighting. So my question is, for the Oracle, are there more burglars? Is this just like a burglar hotbed where like everybody knows about this thing and like people are constantly trying to break in, and there's a, that is too good. Okay, yes, but forget the but, because that's just too funny. Okay, so on my way to the wizard's tower, they sort of hear scuffling and shouting, and there's like some little foliage that they're hiding behind, and they look up, and there are like just all these other burglars like fighting each other, trying to get into this tower. Magnaza turns to Vileglue and says, "Did you know this was going to happen? Is there something particular about tonight that it's going to be a good night?" Yes, there is something about tonight that makes it a perfectly opportune night to burgle. It's a rocket ship. Keg Olympus is away on a trip to a distant sphere, and this is known, and so That is probably why all these other burglars are here to break in. Magneta says, did you have a plan for how to get past these other burglars, or is your plan the same? Yes, plus. So he absolutely has a plan to get around these burglars. What is it? Okay. It's a starry night. And so the all glue pulls out a little satchel of, call it night dust. So they get close, and Vial Glue throws out this bag of dust, and this cone of night, or this sphere of night, settles over all the other burglars, and they can't see. They stop fighting, and they can't see what's going on. And then Vial Glue takes Magnaza's hand, and Magnaza takes Pointage's hand and leads them through and into the wizard's tower. How many sort of obstacles are they going to have to overcome before they get to the... Okay, quite a few. So we're sort of going into a little bit of kind of a dungeon kind of crawl, but it's a tower. So there's a laser trap. Can they see how the laser trap might be operated? Yes, they can, but it's protected. So Magnaza was going to fire a crossbow bolt and try to disable the trap. Well, she's going to try it anyway. I'm going to roll under 7. 8. So she tries to fire at the sort of protective device control panel that operates the laser trap, but she's not able to break it or get through. Pointage wonders, can he see sort of the gaps in the path? And he's small enough. Would he be able to get through the laser trap? Can he see a way through it? We'll roll under 8. Okay, yes. So with his very high awareness, he is able to chart a path where he can get through the laser trap. So can he just punch it? Yeah. Okay. So he punches the control device, and the lasers are disabled, and the others are able to make it through this first trapped entryway. Okay, so that was the first area. So what's going on in this next area? Okay, so that was a laser trap, and so this is a laser gun. It's similar, but what's different about this thing? Laser gun. Okay, this one tracks you. So there's they make it through the entryway, and then let's say they're going up the stairs. So they go up to the next stairs, and in this place there's a central pedestal, and there's a laser that can move around, but it hones in on a signal or a life form. And so rather than static lasers that you have to dodge, this one is just going to shoot anything that it detects. So how are they going to get through this one? Magnaza is going to try to shoot a crossbow bolt directly into the nozzle and see if she can break it. Roll under. 8. Nope. It does not work. As it approaches, the gun just turns and just evaporates the bolt. Magnaza postulates that the device might operate by heat detection. She lights one of her crossbow bolts on fire and then either shoots it across or throws it across. That might distract the turret long enough for them to sneak past. So the question is that actually how it operates? And will this work? So no, that is not how it operates. It doesn't operate by heat, but it will still distract it. The smoke, the motion of the smoke is going to distract it. So she's rapidly losing crossbow bolts. So she lights one of her bolts on fire, tosses it. The smoke billows up, and the laser turns toward the direction of the smoke. And they're able to sneak past the turret trap and go up the stairs to the next room. What's in this room? Bow and arrows. Okay. There's just all sorts of like projectile traps. It's very consistently themed. Okay. So this one has all sorts of this is like an Indiana Jones style, like pressure plate arrows coming through. Is Pointage able to navigate successfully? Let's go under awareness. Yes. So Pointage is able to see which pressure plates are the dangerous ones and navigate the crew successfully through the arrow trap. Okay. So they finally made it to the place where the explosive suit is displayed. It's sort of displayed on this pedestal in the center of the room. Are there other things here? Or is it just the explosive suit? No, there's no other things here. It is just the explosive suit and nothing else. So Magnaza, Pointage, and Vialglue break in, and Pointage is able to examine and study the suit. And Vialglue says, look, we're here. We've made it through all the traps. Why do we have to come up with a replacement? Why couldn't we just steal it now? We're here. We know Cake Olympus is out, not here, not going to be coming back soon. We could just steal it now and save us a whole bunch of trouble going through all those traps again. Magnaza says, well, I know that doesn't put your skills to use, Pointed, but you did help us a lot getting out of it. We wouldn't have been able to get through it without your keen awareness of the traps. So, what do you think? We don't have to follow the plan exactly. All he wants is the suit. They do agree to just go ahead and steal the suit. So they break it up into pieces, or I mean, it would be pretty large. Who's going to be able to carry it? Let's say it takes up 2 slots. Pointage might be able to carry it by himself, but Vialglue is going to want some of it too. So they agree to. They each take they take it apart and they distribute it amongst themselves and make their way back through the traps and out into the darkness from the dark powder, which is just starting to subside, and they steal away into the night. But they need to do something about Vialglue. So what does Magnaza do? I mean, she's a hunter. She probably just shoot Vialglue in the back. They need the pieces. So, and this would be unawares. Oh, but she misses. Okay. So this is going to be a problem. So she fires, she misses, Vialglo turns and says, all right, you want to play it that way? Let's play it that way. And we're in combat. We just need some quick stats. All right. So here we go. We've got Pointage on blue, Magnaza on red, Vialglo on white. So, who goes first? Pointage. So, Pointage comes up, takes out his hammer, and fights. Okay, so Vialglo wins that. So Pointage runs up with his hammer, but Vialglo is able to. These long claws come out. His fingers turn into long claws, and he's able to slash and scratch, and able to do damage onto Pointage. Just 2 points of damage. Okay, Pointage. All right. So Vialglo is right there. Strikes back. 7 plus. Oh, Pointage rolls doubles. That's a mighty blow. So he's gonna not only strike, but he's also going to do double damage with his hammer. So he does 16 damage. Okay, short fight. So Vialglo strikes back, but now Pointage is ready, and so he steps aside. Vialglo tumbles to the ground, and Pointage is able to smack him in the head with his hammer with a mighty blow, killing Vialglo instantly. And so they finish up. That was easy. Magnaza looks at Pointage and says, oh, very impressive. And Pointage looks back at Magnaza and says, yeah, you haven't made a shot all night, have you? But we did get the suit, did we not? And they put the suit back together, and they head back to Troika. All right, and we'll call it there, our first session. So we've got our first characters, we've had our first little adventure, and we had our first little taste of the world. So I hope you enjoyed it, and stick around and keep tuning in. We'll see where things go.